Alrighty, guys, and welcome back to the Basketball Fix podcast. Now, we are continuing on with our one-on-one interviews where we interview current players, ex-players, coaches, media managers, everyone involved in the NBL. But today, I've got an absolute treat for everyone listening to the show today. We are joined by NBL legend Al Green. Al Green, mate, welcome to the Basketball Fix podcast. And how are you going, mate?
I'm doing very well for old man, hanging in there, just in the Christmas season, just feeling jolly and just hanging out with the family.
Definitely, mate. And you've obviously just had a surgery as well, which you're recovering from. So it's obviously a nice little time of the year to put the feet up and relax and sit back and obviously watch some incredible NBL hoops, which I'm looking forward to getting your opinions on a little bit later, mate. But let's get into today's show. Now, these one-on-ones, I love doing these because it's about getting to know yourself. And it's awesome because some people wouldn't have seen you play, and some people who follow the NBL have seen your name popping up quite a bit, which we'll touch on a little bit later in some obviously high-scoring games. But I want to know who you are and where you grew up. Now, obviously, you were born in New York in 1953. Can you give us a bit of an insight into your early life growing up outside of sport before we get into your basketball career?
Yeah, it was very, because we come from a poor area of the Bronx, New York, where basically it was a lot of drugs and stuff happening around the time. So I've had 7 brothers, counting myself, and 3 sisters. So we came from a big family, and sports was not really the involvement with my brothers. So I was the youngest. So I stepped away from just hanging out in the streets and started picking up sports as a whole.
That's awesome. And so when you touch on sports there, was it always just basketball, or did you play other sports around New York? Or was basketball sort of the first and only love, essentially?
No, I always just teased myself with the other sports. I did a tiny bit of baseball. I'll never forget, my mother brought me a uniform, really nice uniform, looked like the Yankees with the stripes and everything, and it was a hard ball. I got hit the first game by the ball and I quit. Nah, the pitcher hit me with the ball. I don't know if he did it on purpose or accident, but I basically quit because I said, no, this is just not me. And then I was mucking around with some boxing gloves I got for Christmas. And one of the police officers that was at the precinct see me boxing around and asked me, did I want to, come to the gym and practice, some boxing and stuff. And I go, like I said, I dip into anything. And I went there a couple of times, did some rounds with some people sparring and everything else. And basically was looking at the Golden Glove stuff. Right. And then stepped away from it. And then I picked up the basketball and fell in love.
And what age did you sort of start playing basketball? Because we'll go into your high school and your college career very, very shortly. But there's always that sort of thing when we're touching and talking to professional athletes at the highest level. There's the time where you pick up a basketball and then you start to enjoy it. But then there's that time as well where you sort of start to figure out that you're not too bad and you might be able to make a bit of a living out of it.
Yeah. I started late. I started at almost 15 years old. Right. Yeah. I was playing in some summer leagues. Right. And we had a bunch of them in New York and the Bronx. And we play against Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and really, really good competition because there's so many ball players, young players that's trying to achieve that goal. And but once I did pick it up, I was almost asleep with the basketball. I would be catching cramps when I came home in the middle of the summer, because don't forget, we were playing on hard courts in the summer, so that sun is beating off that concrete, so it makes it even hotter, right? And when I got home, I was just tired, burned out, everything. And I remember one time I caught a cramp in both legs. And I'm yelling in bed to my mom, I can't move. She said, what's wrong? I said, I got cramp. I got a cramp. She said, get up. You can lean on one leg. I got a cramp in both legs. And but that's how hungry I was for it. And then, you just learn how to make sure you get in shape, make sure you have a lot of water and all that. And I just fell in love with it.
No, that is absolutely awesome. And we'll go into your high school career now. And I sort of want to get to know a little bit more about obviously the whole journey as well. But you sort of touched on little things there about, touching on making sure you're in shape and your nutrition is obviously at a high level and all that sort of stuff as well. But was that educated to you when you were growing up? Because obviously we look at today's athletes and some of these kids go to these basketball academies and everything else where they're taught these really basic things that seem basic, but they're learning it from a young age. So when they do get older and they're professional athletes, they're learning how to fuel their body. They're learning about recovery. They're learning all the important things to being an athlete. Were those things that you were taught back in the day when you were growing up, or obviously is it just completely different times to what it is now?
Yeah, I think it was different times. Because like I said, when I picked it up at that 15, I always was a good athlete.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And basically, when I started playing, like we was trying to dunk the ball and do all that, and couldn't do it because my timing and everything was off. But I had a 40 vertical jump when they tested me in college, right? But I didn't know that I had that. And when I started dunking, I'm dunking like it's, I'm trying to dunk on everybody, everything. And I'm like, that's 15, 16, getting to 17. And, that's when you are dunking and doing things like that, right? And I never forget a guy that played a lot, but he never made it because he got caught up in drugs. And he said, Al, you got to be very, very careful. I'll go like, what do you mean? He said, you know how you going up dunking on this concrete in the streets? This concrete ain't moving. And it's going to wear down your knees because it's not no flexibility. And, where you go on a wooden court, when you go up hard, you come down, but it does give some.
Yeah.
But concrete don't give,
Exactly.
right? And I started, taking that into concept and say, okay, look, maybe if I'm trying to do 100 jumps, maybe do 50 or maybe do, to a point where I'm standing still, pushing off, doing it the right way, or getting to the gym and work on my athletic ability.
No,
So
definitely.
I
It's
think, just things like that helped. And
yep.
just a lot of guys that were on the streets with us that, that had drug problems that could have made it to the, NBA even. I could tell you a story about a guy by the name of Joe Hammett, and this is back in the day, and he played in the Pro Rucker, right? And, Milwaukee Bucks came to him and said, look, and he was selling drugs and doing all that, and they offered him a contract. And he said, yo, man, the money that you offer me, I can make more than that in a weekend. But about 4 or 5 years later, he was in jail.
Wow.
And he is a street legend to the day. If you look up the books, he's a street legend, right? So you can get caught up. You can get caught up in the hype of being a basketball player, but you can get caught up in the hype of being successful and start doing the drugs things, and then you go down the wrong way.
Definitely. It's such it just seems such a fine line as well between obviously the two as well, because it's just how it is sometimes. Obviously, cash is king to a certain degree as well. And obviously, if you're hanging with the wrong crowds and all that sort of stuff as well, it can be very, very impactful and influential on your life as well. But let's get into your high school career, mate. Now, let us know where you played, what the overall experience was like, sort of some of your best moments, all that sort of stuff as well, because I'm very interested to learn more.
Yeah, basically, I changed schools twice, right? I played at DeWitt Clinton. That's where Butch, a couple of, really, really, that was the main school that everybody catered to, right? If you want to go into the NBA and, people like Tiny Archibald, one of my real good friends, Butch Lee, all of those guys went to DeWitt Clinton. A few NBA guys from DeWitt Clinton. I left there and went to Holland Prep. And that's where it took off for me, because at Holland Prep, I wound up making high school All-American. I was second team high school All-American, played in my senior year, played in McDonald's All-Americans, let's just say, but it
Yep.
wasn't called that then because I played with Moses Malone,
Wow.
right? Matter of fact, me and Moses was roommates.
That is huge.
We were roommates, and a few other guys that that made it through over the years. But Moses was he was the freak of
Yeah.
our class, right? And
Yeah.
I never forget in the game, uh, they when they introduced us at the game, and it was McDonald's All Americans game. They gave the 10 Commandments for him. When they called his name out, they went through the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not come in the pain. Thou shalt not test. Like it was awesome. We were like all of the other guys. We were in like we were already out there. We were laughing, and
That is awesome.
yeah. He was a cool dude too. Like really, really quiet. He had that little real heavy voice, but good people. Good people.
Definitely. It's awesome, mate. Just to hear some of these, I guess, names that just everyone knows. Even kids know names like Moses Malone. It's just the aura that those guys have and still have to this day. It is just incredible, and it's awesome to sort of hear that as well. And obviously your experiences there. Now let's go into your college career as well. So just like high school a little bit. Obviously, you said you had 2 high schools. You also had 3 different colleges that you played for in your time there. So can you sort of discuss why you decided to change colleges 3 times? Was it just better opportunities or better development pathways? Because obviously, I think in today's sort of world, essentially with colleges, it is relatively rare for players to change colleges, especially 3 times in the 4-year sort of college career. So what was the sort of decision making around changing 3 times?
Okay. It was really not 3 times because I went to a junior college.
Okay. Yeah.
So you had to go. You had to go. You
Yeah.
can't do 4 years at a junior college, right? So you had to
True.
leave. So
Yeah.
basically I went to Arizona Western, and we went to the regional grand finals of the junior college situation. And the whole thing that through my career, I've always tried to reach the peak of the hill, get to the top of the hill. So in that time in junior college, I made junior college All-American at Arizona Western. I was one of I think the second or third top scorer in the nation, right? And I only stayed there 1 year, right? So that's when you have to leave. Anyway, you could stay 2 years, you could stay 1 year. I wind up leaving, going to North Carolina State. Now I was in love, because you get your idols of players and everything. And this guy just reminded me, because he jumped out of the gym by the name of David Thompson that played at NC State,
Yep.
right? And he was, phenomenal. He was a freak, right? He wound up beating Bill Walton in UCLA and then for the grand final of the NCAA tournament. So that was 1 year after I looked at it. The coach sold it to me, and I went to North Carolina, right? North Carolina State. Now that's the rival of North Carolina, the Tar Heels and all that. But they were the cream of the crop at that time, right? So I was a sophomore, and I played my sophomore year and junior year there. Now, come on, man. Like I say to kids, because like I had a dream of like when I went to NC State, I thought I would be very, very successful. And then it basically went a little pear-shaped. But like I said, I had a dream to be successful if I was going to be there or somewhere else. So in ways of making it in life, I know what failure is. I've seen people get killed in the middle of the street, and and I looked at the body and seen a bullet in somebody's head, and you just say, hey, look, I cannot fail in what I'm trying to do because I want to succeed in life.
Yeah.
So if you're going to tell me I'm not good enough to play for you, I'll go somewhere else and play and we'll see if I see you again. This is what, hello, here I am.
Yeah.
Right? So at NC State, it happened like that. It was my coach, Norm Sloan. We had a good team, but it wasn't. He brought a lot of younger guys in later because I was basically I was a junior then, my junior year. He decided not to play me that much. And I go, look, but I knew against a player by the name of Phil Ford that was in Walter Davis. They were playing for North Carolina. And we had a big, big game against them. And I won the game. And after the game, everybody was asking me, well, how come he's not playing you that much? How come he's not this? And I go, look, he's the coach. And, I got to make up my mind what I want to do with my future. And I just said, look, it's not going to be here my last year. So for me, it was very, very hard to transfer because I was a senior.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't take seniors, right? They go thing, but I had a real good relationship with Dale Brown at LSU. Real good relationship. He even came to my house in the Bronx when he was recruiting me before I decided to go to NC State. That's how bad he wanted me. He came, this white man in the black area, child, in the Bronx. I said to my mom, I said, Mom, you think it'd be all right for him to come? And my mom said, oh, yeah, he should be. And I said to Dale, look, I can't promise nothing, dude, you know what I mean? But he said, no, he's coming. I want to meet your family. You know what I mean? I want to meet your family. And he did. And that's one thing that always stuck with me. So he brought me in. And when he brought me in, he basically said, look, I know you got to sit out and, but I know you're going to be at training. You're going to push our guys. And they had a good team and they were building a good roster, really, really good team. But, I have faith in you. And then so I sat out that year. Then my senior year, he made me the captain.
Wow.
Me and this other guy, Lionel Green, and I still speak to Lionel to the day. I seen him the last time I went home. He was my roommate. And the same thing with NC State too. Now I was roommates with a guy named Kenny Carr, and me and him still remain best of friends today. And Kenny Carr went on and played with the LA Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers. He played in the league for 12 years. Nice. And he runs his own construction business now. And we visited each other, myself and my wife and his wife caught up in San Francisco and hung out for the weekend 2 years ago, right? But that's what life's about. You meet teammates and you become brothers. And it doesn't matter how many years go by. We're talking about 40, 50 years ago, and we're still act like it was yesterday, the love we have for each other. Right. So I wound up going to LSU, had a great year, made honorable mention All-American, averaged 19 points. Right. We lost to my good friend, Magic Johnson, that I'll tell you that about that too. Magic came to NC State to visit when he was in high school. And myself and Kenny had to take him out. They have that 48-hour visit.
Yep.
And I knew I was leaving. And Kenny kind of like knew he was going to the NBA because, he was like, yo, this is the perfect opportunity for me to go. Right. And Magic, when he came, we were in the car. Kenny we drive, you usually drive the guys around and you have a little bit of, like you show them the certain places. This is a hangout. This is it. So we're in the car talking, and it was really funny. We're in the car, and Kenny was talking to him, and I just sat back and was chilling, right? Just a real quick one with Kenny. This is how big Kenny was. Kenny played with the USA Olympic team.
Wow.
He was on that Olympic team that won the gold medal. he gave me his jersey. He came back, yo, bro, this is, I go like, what's up? He said, he threw it at me. I'm going like, what's up? He go, yo, bro, this is for you. This is for you. I go, what? And he go, yeah, you're my guy.
That's massive.
And I said, yo, okay, cool. That was awesome. So getting back to Magic, so we hanging out, and I'm running around, like everybody at campus, we're everybody friendly. So, hey, Magic, that's nice. Hey, Magic, this nice, and we laugh. And then we get back in the car. Kenny's talking, and I go quiet. Then we go to another place. We cool, right? I'm laughing, go quiet. Then the third time, I think Magic got tired of that, right? He looks back in the back at me and go, yo, man, well, what do you think? Because you know what? I'll go, what do you mean what I think, bro? I'm good. Al, you ain't saying nothing. I go, nah, look, I'm going to say like this here. And Kenny was like, oh, no. I said, I'm going to kind of like keep it real. You're Magic, right? You're Irving Johnson. That's before he became the Magic Man. You're going to be all right. But if you're not, it might be hard. Right? And then Kenny said, okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I threw it out there. And then Magic, okay, that's cool. The thing that caught Magic's eye was when he got home, somebody said the exact same thing to him. And Magic said to that person, because he told me when we played against him in the NCAA tournament the year after when I was with LSU, because we lost to Magic and them in the Elite Eight. And they were coming on the train after us, and he grabbed me and said, yo, because they used to call me Mean, right? Yo, Mean, right? He hugged me, and he go, man, hey, bro, I just want to say to you, thank you for keeping it real with me. Because when I got home, somebody that I really respected said the same thing to me that you said.
That's massive.
He said, because he said, like you could have got in trouble or whatever. But I said, no, man, like that's just me. And me and him stayed friends. I worked at his camp when later on in life, after I retired and everything else, I went over and did a Magic Johnson basketball camp and hung out with him.
Awesome.
So then I wound up leaving, finishing LSU, made all SACC team, honorable mention All-American, and then got drafted. Right? With my draft, I wound up getting drafted to the Phoenix Suns in the 3rd round. But in that same year, I got drafted for football as well.
This is what's crazy to me. This is when I was doing my research. Sorry to cut you off here, but when I was doing my research for this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but somewhere wrote that you weren't even playing college football, obviously, or even you hadn't played football for a handful of seasons there, and they drafted you on your strength, your size, and just your athletic ability. And that is bonkers to me. You see it very, very rarely, but for a guy like yourself to be drafted in the same year, like we've got to put a bit of emphasis on this. The same year you're drafted to the NBA with the Phoenix Suns, and then you're drafted in the NFL draft in 1979.
Yeah.
Like that is incredible.
And the thing with it, because I ran track in college at NC State, because I always had this situation happening where I wanted to make sure I always stay in shape. That was my secret. My secret was off season, I'm putting in just as much work with my speed, with my jumping and everything else. Then when I go on the court, I can run all day.
Yeah.
Right. And I wound up winning the ACC. Right. And we had the Dallas Cowboys. I got a letter at my house now from the Dallas Cowboys saying that they're going to draft me. Right. So they came out, you know how they have you run the 40-yard sprint? Yep. And I ran like the 2nd fastest in the country that year. Right. And then the Dallas Cowboys, the San Diego Chargers, the New York Giants, and it was another team. It was about 4 teams timing you. They're back there, they had the little watches, right? And they time you. And they said, no, you ran the second fastest time in the country this year, right? And Dallas said, we are definitely going to look at you for the draft, but San Diego beat them to the draft.
How close were you to playing in the NFL, though? Was it ever a possibility, or was it just one of those things that it was cool?
I mean, you know, people could say it, and I wish my agent was here, but he died now.
Yeah.
He would back my word. I had a contract because I went to the camp. Because I basically just I didn't make the NBA. So I said, look, I'm going to go out and I'm just going to give it a go. I've never done it before, right? And I was with Kevin Winslow and those guys with the San Diego Chargers. And it was fun. It was really, really good. They brought me to rookie camp. I did well. They invited me back for veteran camp, right? And basically, I did well. And they said, we had a meeting. And they go, look, we're going to call your agent in. Come, I want your agent to come to this meeting. And we're going to talk to you about playing football. And I'll go, well, okay, cool. So they're talking. At the end of the day, they said, here, we got a contract for you. And I said, let me go away with this and think about it, right? Because I said I'll never make a decision without having a good night's sleep on it. So it wasn't a good night's sleep, but it was sort of like it was like my career in hand of one way, moving the whole career of basketball to football.
Yeah.
And they said you just fit every piece of this puzzle we have because you're just so. You know, you're a hungry athlete. Some of the things you're doing, everybody's laughing at, but they are admiring how you chasing down the ball and you don't even know what you're doing, but you're doing it, right? You were hungry, right? And I'll go, yeah. And then I'll come back and I go to them. You know, you step that one foot out of the bed in the morning and you go, I'm not a football player.
Yeah.
And my heart's not. I love basketball.
Yeah.
And I said, look, so I went back. When my agent was there, went back. They showed me what the contract was going to be. They even gave, they were talking about you were going to do some special teams and this and that and that, and this and like, but we're going to pay you this amount of money. You're going to get paid, right? And we were signing fee, everything. And I said, no, thanks. I said, to be somewhere in the world, if it's not the NBA, it'll be somewhere in the world that will respect my game.
Yeah, 100%.
And there we go. And then I wound up leaving. Did one more try with the Houston, and that's where I caught up to my old boy Moses, right? and it was funny because both teams I went to, the bad thing about it, both teams I went to they wound up losing in the grand NBA finals. The Phoenix Suns lost that year coming up. Then when I went to Houston lost that year. So it wasn't bummy teams I was going to. That's the moral of the story. You could have went to Detroit was bad back then, right? Just say. And Detroit was looking at me as well, right? If I would have got drafted to Detroit, I probably would have made it. Yeah. But, it's always going to be probably. But don't forget, they had the microwave too, because that's who they picked up. They picked up Vinny at that time too. And we both was from New York.
It's crazy, hey? And it's honestly ridiculous to hear the stories of like a guy who's, you said 15 you started playing, and 23, 24 is when the time you would have roughly finished college. So then obviously fast forward, you're trying out for an NFL team and essentially figuring out what you're doing on the spot. Like it's incredible. Now let's get into the crux of what a lot of people at the Basketball Fix will know you about, and that is obviously the NBL. And I am looking forward to touching on your career, and I'm also looking forward to asking you a handful of questions as well. But you came over here in 1981, if I'm correct, and joined the West Adelaide Bearcats, where you spent 4 years of your time. Now, those 4 years were pretty successful for yourself personally and for the team. You won an MVP trophy and obviously won a championship. Now, how was that experience like? Because least, I guess, coming to Australia and not going to Europe, you're coming to a country and a nation where they speak the same language at least, which is always a good start. And I guess the processes are a little bit easier. But what was the first 4 years like in the NBL? And then obviously we'll dive into the rest of your career after as well, because I've got a couple of questions there.
Yeah, I mean, like, myself, Cal, as you know, Perth guy, played in Perth. We were Leroy. All of us were the pioneers, right, of the game. Is a lot of black guys coming into a situation where it's a white society, right? We're talking about our brotherly love. Aboriginals were here, but not really looked at in that way. We had Michael Armatt here in South Australia. That was a legend, right? And, we were the faces of the black community, but completely different. And I even did work in the Aboriginal communities and stuff like that. I used to go out and I went to Cooper Petey's and places like that where you're driving on the red dirt road, just trying to learn the nature of the black man in Australia. And, I could have easily stayed at home, just look at my achievements, coming out here my first year. We lost the grand final. I mean, as a matter of fact, we lost in the semifinals against Nunawading. And then the second year, we had that, we brought Leroy in, and, that guy just awesome to play with. I know you guys from Perth, you love the cotton and all that, but there would not be another two-way player, right? Two-way player like Leroy. I mean, because he did it on both ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he still rebound. He just was a complete player. And, he reminds me of Cotton in their own little way because they're just so humble.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing I liked about Leroy, so I'm supposed to be the big fish. Leroy's coming in. Leroy's a big fish too. And we both averaged 27 points. And you couldn't stop us because we both were left-handed and we both knew how to win. Yeah. Right? And the guys we had with us was one guy, Peter Alli was an Olympian. He was on that little squad. We had Ken Richardson, that was great player, right? At his time as an American, but he's kind of like naturalized. And Ray Woods, that was the defensive player of the year 2 times in the NBL. So, that team was a really, really good team. And, everybody laughed. I even laughed sometimes. I said, shit, and me and Leroy, we laughed. I go, yeah, I win the MVP of the league with Leroy on my team because we would be stealing points from each other. Yeah. You have to steal points from each other. But I still win the MVP of the league, and I think that's the referee's vote. I don't know who voted, but somebody voted. And I said, well, I don't know what was wrong with them, but no. But, I worked hard for it. I got it, right? But and Leroy basically won the MVP of the final game, the playoffs. So we both complimented each other in our own way of doing the 27 points a game with both of us doing that.
It's crazy. And
then the next year, we lost the grand final, right? And then Leroy went back to Brisbane. And that last year, that's when everything happened with me with scoring and doing all that.
That's what I'm about to touch on right now, because in 1984, and I think this is where I guess the younger generation, even guys younger than myself and little boys and girls growing up who are watching the NBL and they're seeing what Cotton's doing, which we'll touch on a little bit later in the show still, but they've seen your name on graphics for all-time points in particular games. And like, I'm still in awe thinking about it. But obviously you scored 50 points or more 4 times in 1984, which let's just sit that alone there by itself. We are going bonkers over Cotton scoring 40. I know the minutes are a little bit lower nowadays, but still 50 points or more 4 times, and including a 71-point masterclass, which is still the all-time points in a game record for the NBL. when you're in that sort of zone as a scorer, and I've only played at rec league and I'm not a massive scorer myself, but what is the feeling? Because do you just feel untouchable essentially?
I tell you what happened. It's a funny story too. People testing me. Like I said, Leroy was gone, so they know, or Al's got to pick up some scoring, whatever. We're playing against Newcastle. We got into a little fight,
Yep.
right? Somebody kind of like, like I said, a New York street guy, somebody kind of like snuck me. So it's similar to what happened to the guys that happened with the Adelaide guys
Yep.
with Melbourne a little bit, but a little different. So one of the guys kind of like try to sneak me. My teammate, he came into the offense. My teammates grabbed me, and I got mad because my teammates grabbed me because I wanted to get to this guy, right? Because it was going to be some damage, right? But they stopped me. But they suspended me. And I go, well, wait. How can y'all suspend me? And I didn't hit. I was trying to get him. You're right. I was trying to get him. My teammates hold me, and I got mad. I went in the locker room and told them, don't grab me. You grab the other guy. He done got his shot in, and you grabbing me, right? Yeah. And they're like, no, okay, Al, cool. I said, cool. I love you guys. I still love you. We're a team, but don't grab me, right? And they suspended me. And I go, and I just really, really had time to think. I just had time to think. And I'll go, Al, what are you going to be? And that's the one thing I do give credit to the two guys that were involved in the last month situation. They came back with that attitude of, okay, it's happened. I'll serve my time. But for me, I said, you don't unlaunch an animal. Can't know why? Because if you have to do that, can't none of you stop me.
Yeah.
Can't none of you stop me. Right? And I said, I'm gonna blow this up now. Now, the worst thing you could have done, let me come back on the court. I want revenge, and I'm, I want to win. It's like I'm out there playing. I'm not playing for myself. Like some of those games, I know some of the games I had 36, 14 or 12 rebounds and 11 assists, right? I had triple doubles where I was getting 35 points, right? So I'm going straight up. Can't nobody guard me. Can't nobody guard. Like you said, with that 70 game, the game before that, I had 60.
Wow.
I had 60. And I had a 59 game. So we talk about almost 2 games of 60 points. And then you put the 70 on top of it, right? Because I had the mentality. Well, I remember one time one of the coaches was yelling, "Yeah, you gotta do this." I said, "Yo," because it was fun. I think it was Gordy. It was somebody that I knew I played against, or they've been around a long time and seen me, early. And I go, "You can't stop me." I said, "You could nobody on your bench can stop me."
Send them all out.
Yeah. And that was the difference between me and Cotton. That's why I love Cotton. I love his work. I was talking to Ricky 3 days ago, right? Because me and Ricky Grace are really, really good friends, right? And and we were saying, and I think the thing that a lot of people hated me for, because I was talking trash. I'll be like, yo, I don't care who you bring out here, because none of you stop me from scoring. So I went on a scoring streak, and it was all in my mind. And, that's just the way it was for me.
It's crazy. It's an incredible streak, because we're seeing your name everywhere at the moment. Obviously you and Andrew Gaze and Bryce Cotton are now the only players in NBL history to have scored 40 or more points for 4 games consecutive. Like, there's just some really, really incredible statistics there as well. But we'll move on now to obviously your time at the Adelaide 36ers, where you spent 6 seasons there, winning another NBL championship, and just continued dominating the league as well. You go back and look at your statistics per game, and you're still scoring, between that 18 and 25 points per game sort of margin as well, and really, really enjoying your time. Now, what was the move like, obviously, to the 36ers? Obviously, they're a club that's still standing right now, and most people still obviously know the club, but they've had a really rich history, and they've had some really, really good players there. So how important was it, your time there in Adelaide, and what was the 6 years like for yourself?
Yeah. Adelaide was a different, because most of our guys went over there. So it was Adelaide 36, but it was West Adelaide guys and the coach. Ken came in that had relationships with West Adelaide, right? So myself, Ray Woods, Peter Ally, Mike Mackay, four of us. I think it was David Spear too. Four of us. It might have been Peter Sexton as well. It was about 5 or 6 of us from that team went over to the 36ers. Then they made it up by fixing it up by bringing in Mark came in a little later. Mark Davis came in a little later. Bill Jones was the first fixture. We had a couple other guys in, but they got rid of them and brought Mark in. One other guy, right? And then you had Iceman, Daryl Pierce, right? And really, the Americans and Daryl was probably, I don't want to leave nobody out and try to exclude anybody, but that was the 36ers at that time. And it was more or less our guys fitting into that situation. Right? Yep. So the Ray, Ray was a starter with me with West Adelaide. He had to come off the bench.
Yep.
The difference in that team is that Ken, the first year, I made all-star team, one of the top scorers in the league. I think I averaged 31 that season with the 36ers, right? Then Ken said, and we lost in the grand final to Brisbane. So Ken had to come back to the table. And Daryl and everybody else will tell you, he said, look, Al, you got to change your game. I go, what do you mean I change my game? Shit, like I'm doing what I'm doing, like I'm not nobody down. And he goes, no, I need you to get these other guys more involved. And I go like, so what are you saying? From that 31, 19, 20, right? Contribute the ball a little more, even though you were doing it still at the same time, but you got to get more people involved. And I go, hey, I was so hurt we lost. I felt we shouldn't have lost. We were the best team that year. And I go, whatever's got to be done for the win, for a championship, I'm willing to do it. So I sacrificed my game for that goal. Right? And we won. And we won, and it was worth the sacrifice.
100%. The championship's the ultimate goal at the end of the day, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah. So then we went on. The funny thing about that one too, 86, I was running track. I was a track athlete. I was running in the Bay, Sheffield, and stuff like that. In 85, I won the track athlete of the year off season. And that's what I always done. Always ran track off season. And the Commonwealth Games were coming up. And they wanted me to run in the 400 with Darren Clark. And, because you got to have a 4x4 relay team. You got to have 4 guys. Right? And I had the times. I ran the times. And then when we made the pledge on the bus for the 86 championship team, I committed to my guys with them because I felt that the team spot was bigger than my individual spot with that. So I didn't run in a race that I had to qualify for the team because I knew that 6-8 months later, I would have had to train for it. There's no way I could have got away from not doing a Commonwealth game. Now, if I'm representing the country, I want to make sure, I don't know if I'm going to win or whatever, but I'm going to give it my 110. And I felt I couldn't do that. So I took the basketball route and we wound up winning in 86. And and then basically the beat goes on. Ken got released and it all became history with us.
It's crazy to think. Like it's just your career is obviously the solid thing is always basketball, but there's always a second sport or a second thing going on, which is it's incredible. Like it shows you how obviously incredible an athlete you are. And I want to touch on this briefly before we move on to your last 3 years in Newcastle. But obviously your jersey is now hanging up in the rafters as a retired jersey of the Adelaide 36ers organization. And, there's only a handful of players in that whole entire history that have got their jerseys up there as well. And you played 164 games there for the Adelaide 36ers. What did that mean to you afterwards? Because I know obviously, yes, it's a team sport, but individual achievements like that and something that is as special as that has to mean something for sure.
Yeah, oh, definitely, because as I said to you earlier, myself, Cal, James Crawford, Leroy, all, even Tiny, Tiny made a big contribution to basketball here, and the beat goes on, Herb McGeach and it's just so many of us. And I'm not speaking just about the Black Americans, Scott Fisher, we got a bunch of guys, American guys that came out here and was the forefathers, leader. Oh, I mean, just the beat can go on, you know what I mean? And I'm not just saying Black, but how we just,
100%. Change the game, essentially.
We're going to be that, right?
Yeah.
And in Adelaide, like I was one of the forefathers, starting from the West Adelaide. And we always said, if you're going to hang up the Britt Mars and Mark Davis, and you're going to hang up the Adelaide, West Adelaide banner of winning a championship, it's on that rafter too, you got to have me there. There's no ifs and buts about it. You know what I mean? I mean, like, and that's the thing, a little bit, got into it a little bit with Adelaide. We kind of part ways a little bit, because if it's anyone in place of having their uniform retired, it should be Mark, Brett, and then me.
Yeah.
And then Daryl, right? And then whatever else happens after that happens, right? Because even though Daryl, he played with the Olympic team, we know that, but we're talking about MVP of the league. Right? We're not talking about, we're talking about Guinness Book of Records with the scoring. We're not talking about, we're talking about history here, right? So it's not like I'm trying to beat my own chest, but numbers don't lie.
Exactly.
Don't lie.
No.
Right?
Numbers are historical.
Yeah. And I go, that's why when we went back to it and it happened, I treasure that moment with Adelaide. And me and Adelaide it's family now. We're family, to the day we're family. And, and I'm so proud to have my number up there and have my name up there. And, nobody can wear that uniform. I mean, nobody can wear that number again.
Yeah.
Right. So I give homage to them for doing that.
Definitely. I think that's one thing that, I guess you can talk about NBL championships and MVPs, but that's something that anyone, man, woman, child, anyone who walks into that arena in Adelaide sees your number up there with your name above it. And it's a special feeling, I'd 100% imagine. And I've spoken to players from the Perth Wildcats, for example, whose jerseys are up in the rafters, and the energy it brings them and the excitement every time they go back to that arena to watch a game and they see it up there. It brings back memories and it brings back joyful times and hard work and everything as well, because it's not what you play for is your jersey in the rafters. You play to win and have team success, but it does obviously have that incredible effect on you as well every time, which is honestly incredible. Now, we'll finish off your NBL journey here, and I've got a couple of quick questions about the league and obviously what you're doing outside of basketball as well. You obviously finished your time with the Newcastle Falcons there. You played 3 seasons. In those 3 seasons, you averaged 22 points in the first, 19 in the second, and finished off your last season with 10 points per game. What was the sort of end of your career and those seasons like, made in the NBL?
Great. You know how changes in life is changes in life. And even when I left Adelaide, didn't want to leave. It was the new coach, new situation. Basically, even that year, my last year with Adelaide, I didn't really play that much. And the guy, the funny thing about it, the guy is still a good friend of mine, Don Shipway. Really good man, good friend of mine, but he was going another path. He wanted to bring some youth in. And basically, I averaged off the bench 10 points, so all through my whole career, I've always averaged double digits, right?
Yeah.
Always, right? And wound up leaving. But the luxury was I was going to a person that is like a big brother to me, Ken Cole. He was coaching Newcastle, and he still had a gripe with Adelaide. So he was trying to say, well, Al, come up here, come up with us. And the only thing I was coming to was kind of hard because they weren't winning.
Yeah.
And I was used to winning. Every year we were in the playoffs and everything else through my whole career, with the 2 championships. We were in the 2 grand finals. I've had a great college career with that, right? So, winning. NBL career, right?
Yeah.
And so I just, I scored. I made all-star team. I was trying to revamp myself to satisfaction to myself. Now, I become 40 years old, right? And I'll never forget the game we played. We played against Melbourne. It was Mark Leader, Scott Fisher, and a few of them. And something happened with me and Leader, right? And they just set me off and just seemed like I just, they got me mad. For some reason, maybe like somebody could have called me an old man or whatever, right? And they were right. But it just gave me the motivation. And it was on my birthday.
Yeah.
Right? And Steve Carfino was interviewing. And Steve said, Al, what happened? Because I won the MVP of the game.
Yeah.
And I go, man, Steve, let me tell you straight up, bro. It's just that they just somehow rewind the clock. And I go, because it's amazing, because today is my birthday. I'm 40 years old.
That's cool.
And they go, well, you went 40 and you got the player of the game. I go, yeah. And I just said, and I hold that down to some people sometimes saying, hey, you can't keep up with me, old man. You can't get. I go, and then I say, well, you keep forgetting I was a runner. If it's one thing I'm gonna do, in my slowest times, I think will be your fastest, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I think they rewinded that clock. So that was it. So I finished up there. And matter of fact, I had another year with Newcastle. And I turned it down.
Yeah.
And then that's when I said, look, I'm going to come back to Adelaide and basically, work on different situations. And so here I am.
Here you are. And it's awesome to still, I think one thing that, the guys of your generation who came over here and were catalysts of the NBL and obviously really kicked off the excitement around the league. And obviously just had an incredible impact. A lot of you guys have stayed in Australia, which I think is incredible. And it's awesome to still, be able to still be in contact, like shows like this, for example, and see you guys doing media and see you guys in the community as well. And it really is incredible because, I think one thing in the modern world is we look too far ahead instead of looking further back and
That's
appreciating what we've had. And recognizing what we've had. And I think that's a thing because without your contributions and the people in your time, we wouldn't have a league nowadays. And that's what people are very easy to forget about. Yes, the league is booming right now. It's probably the biggest it's ever been worldwide recognition size and everything like
definitely.
that. But we haven't seen, there's been lean patches of the NBL as well. But those times in the 80s and the 90s were really, really incredible times of basketball.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a couple of questions. Sorry,
I'm going to just say something before you go. Even I feel that Larry's doing a great job.
100%.
Right? And I think he's pinpointed the Leonard Copelands, the Andrew Gaze, but it still goes deeper than that.
For sure.
We're the ones that set it up for them. Shane Hill said something real quick. Shane Hill said when he was going to the Olympic team, and one time he had a situation with who was it? Crazy Charles Barkley and them. Something
Yep.
happened, right? He said, but I learned it from Al Green. When he was a kid, me and him got into it. And I said, I'm going to show you a lesson. And he remembered that lesson and he took it to that situation. He even publicized it.
Yeah.
So this is what the little further, the Cows, the Leroys and all that take notice. But I know they give Leroy and Cal. Cal's going to demand his respect or whatever, because Cal's never going to not let you know what he did. And
He
I love
loves
him.
it.
That's my guy. But
100%.
Cal's good at pumping his own brake. He ain't gonna put on pumping on his brakes. He's gonna keep going, right? And good on him. I love him for it. But yeah, that's the whole thing that I feel. I feel Larry and him sometimes feel short and maybe going a little deeper.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's a big thing, and I think that's something that we're trying to achieve here as well. It's not about the past. It's not about the present players necessarily wholeheartedly. It's about the foundations of the leagues. I guess you call them the founding fathers essentially as well. The people who really kept this league going when money wasn't a massive thing and everything like that. So it's really, really important and special to obviously have you on, mate. Now I've got a couple of quick questions here about the NBL today. And then we're going to touch on, obviously, what you've got going on to wrap the episode up, mate, because I've enjoyed my time with you so far. And I've probably kept you a little bit longer than I probably said already. But obviously, you follow the NBL still, which is really, really exciting. And there's a lot of great players in the league today. Now, this is sort of a two-part question. So who's your favorite player in the NBL right now? And who's a player that you sort of think reminds you of yourself a little bit? Not necessarily the whole overall game, but maybe parts of it.
Okay, my favorite, and it's, I would say, and I was talking to Rick. Me and Rick was talking about this because Cotton's doing what he's doing.
Yeah,
I love his work because he's like, I wish I could be like that. I wish I was like that, but I'm not. That's not me. I'm not built like that. He's a quiet assassin. Where I'm shooting you and I'm letting you know I'm shooting you. But he's a quiet assassin. And then if you try to rattle him up, I've seen him get rattled against the kid from Cairns when the big strong guard tried to, I forgot his name, but he tried to rough him up. He tried to rough him up. And that's the first time I've ever seen him get out of character, right? Yeah. But I just love his work. And then he is what I was, a scorer. And we get it different ways. It's a long time ago. People say, what are you? Are you a shooter or a scorer? I said, I'm a scorer because I'm going to get mine on the foul line. I'm going to get mine off some layups. I'm going to get mine on some short jumpers. I'm going to get mine off some threes or whatever because I'm a scorer. And that's what Cotton is. He's a scorer. He can shoot the three, but he's a scorer. And I love because of his size. Like I'm only 6'1". It's not like I'm 6'4", 6'5".
Yep.
I'm one of those little guys, but just past the mark of being a little bit over 6 foot. And you got a lot of, what other I like this whole season? The little guys. They are making a statement. I'm talking about the kid from New Zealand, the one from, Tasmania that helped win that grand final for them in the first quarter. You know what I mean? I'm just proud to see the little guys get that recognition they deserve.
It's a little man league. That's the sort of thing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, like you mentioned, Parker Jackson Cartwright in New Zealand, Jordan Crawford, Bryce is obviously on a tear, Jalen Adams at the Sydney Kings. There's just everywhere.
I don't want to forget my guy at home in Adelaide, Davis.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's good friends with Alex Starling, that was a good mate of mine. I help him get in the league. Right? Okay, they released everything good, and no problem. But him and Alex are good friends. And Alex always say, Alex said, I'm gonna get y'all together because he needs to hear from my dad basically what it's about. Right? Yeah. So even him, I put in that category. I take pride to him because he came back with the right head.
100%.
Right?
That situation could have
Who's the
gone
God?
plenty of ways. Like, his maturity as a 25-year-old, Kendrick Davis, to obviously go what he went to happen what he happened and go through the whole situation. He could have gone two different ways. He could have lost his mind and gone even back home and said, I'm not coming back. Or, even when he came back into the league, he could have been a shell of himself, but he's put up 35 and 10 pretty much over the last 3 games. And
I'm telling you,
he's a freak. Yeah.
He is. And so he's one that I'm happy, like I said, the guards probably right now is to make, I look at the games, I see Cotton doing what he's doing, and I just smile.
Yeah.
I just smile because I think they're helping the game that I love achieve as much as of the goals they can achieve in Australian basketball.
100%. It's truly incredible. Now, I'm going to ask you this question, and if you don't want to answer, that is completely fine, mate. And I understand why, because some people love these conversations for a couple of reasons, and some people don't. But I'm going to ask you the question. You've been around for such a long time. You've seen some of the greats of the NBL through different generations, Leroy, Gazy, now Cotton in this era as well. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest of all time in the NBL?
The only it's kind of unfair in a way because it's a two-headed monster on this question. Yeah. I have to say Leroy.
Yeah.
Right. Because the only problem with the Leroy fact is I played with him too.
Yeah.
Right. So if I say that he's the GOAT and I won the MVP with him, that makes me pretty good too now. Okay.
100%.
But the only reason we used to laugh because we used to set up plays for him to steal the ball because his defense was good. Yeah. And we used to call him the baseline bandit. So you run your player to that little left-hand side where his left hand is, right? And if I'm putting pressure on that guard, I want him to pass that way because if it's not an accurate pass, Leroy is the baseline bandit. He'll pick it off and he's going down for a dunk, right? Or he'll be blocking shots unexpectedly because you're taking your man to that other situation. He comes to help and he blocks that shot a little bit. So defensively, he was incredible. He was incredible defensively, and he was incredible offensively too. So, but like I said, Andrew, believe me, loved the Gazes, loved Andrew, but Andrew had his dad there, right? And I still see people, oh yeah, you laugh and say Andrew used to get them. People used to laugh and say Andrew get the ball 2 or 3 times because that was set of the offense. If you didn't, he'll take you out. Then he'll take you out quietly. You knew the rules of the game, of the Gazes. We knew. We used to laugh, right? But I always said, I don't give a damn how many times they try to set you up. You still got to make the shot. And he did.
Yeah,
he did. He made it. They gave it to him, and they hand fed him, but he made the shot, and he did it consistently. So where. We say Cotton. I know Cotton is, is good. I love his game. But if I had to throw him in that category as defensive-wise too, does he become a Michael Jordan? That's what Michael was. Yeah. Michael played, how many defensive teams that Michael made?
Plenty. Over double digits, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many times he won Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah.
Right? That's where I put Leroy. And that's where I would have to say Leroy.
And it's such an interesting debate, isn't it? Because there's no set criteria. I know in the NBA sometimes when you talk on LeBron and Michael, we won't get into that too much, but it's like, it's championships is the barometer. But then we come over to our conversation right now, and it's, what we're more saying right now is Leroy was the most complete player out of all 3 of these guys because he could do both ends of the court. So there's no criteria for who is the greatest realistically. And that's what makes the debate so interesting and fun, I think.
Yeah. And the thing with it, I at least have the pleasure of watching the Andrew Gaze and the Leroy Loggins at their time and seeing what Bryce is doing. And I'm enjoying every moment of it. He's becoming a legend. He's already a legend. Yeah. Now he's trying to be the GOAT.
He's at that level now, isn't he? But One more question here about the league right now. Now, obviously, the Adelaide 36ers, I think excitingly for obviously Adelaide fans and people who have been involved in the club for such a long period of time. A few lean periods there. Last couple of years, they've been sort of one of the bottom teams on the ladder, and this year have got it going. But there was a bit of controversy at the start of the year with obviously the sacking of Scott Ninez after he was just signed and then he was released from his contract, and a lot of things were sort of going on there. What are your thoughts, I guess, of the Adelaide 36ers team this season so far? And obviously, it's great to see that the club has, I guess, sort of steadied a little bit after a little bit of disarray at the start of the season.
I honestly think, and I speak to the management a fair bit now. Pretty close with a couple of people there. Let's just say,
yep.
The only thing when they called me and told me, I said, and I spoke to Scotty. Me and Scotty's my guy. Scotty, my teammate, right? I said the thing that they did wrong, and I said it to their face. If you felt the way you felt, you should have never hired him. You should have never gave him the contract. You should have never gave him the contract. That's where you were 110% wrong.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, whoa. I said, no. I know this was happening, but that's what you did because he's a homie. He's homegrown, South Australian kid. Y'all the one put him on that pedestal. You the one put him on that pedestal, right? And now he's believing his own hype too. So no matter if he had good intentions, because don't forget my boy CJ was there. That's Cal's kid. I'm the godfather of Cal's other son, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right, and Cal's the godfather of my son. Right, so we got family. So I call him and say, "Yo, what's up with Scotty going in?" Because don't you think he's going to take CJ job, you think? And they go, oh, no, that won't happen. And then I go, okay, it did. And should it, would it, or whatever, y'all worked it out. That's fine with CJ.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Scotty factor. That's where y'all were wrong. If you didn't sign Scotty, you wouldn't have this problem right now.
Exactly.
But Al, because we picked the American, we did it doesn't matter. You signed him.
Yeah.
You picked him, but you signed who you wanted to sign. And it's a good signing. And the same thing I say to Alex, Alex, how can they keep you compared to this, NBA 6 Man of the Year guy? If they can keep him, there's no loyalty in business. Come on, this is a business.
Yeah.
And this guy, the fans love him.
Yeah.
And he's producing. It's a no-brainer. So with Adelaide, they made that mistake by doing that. But I think a championship or getting close to a championship will make a lot of happy Adelaide people happier than what they were, because we were still losing.
Yeah.
And they just want to, Adelaide just want to win again. Adelaide used to be in the same category as Perth.
Yeah.
We the ones that had, we got 4 championships. We have 4. And the last one was with Phil in them, right? Come on. And then Perth shot off like a rocket. Right? Yeah. And it's like, we're like, when can we get our just due? And if we have to make sacrifices for it, it has to do.
Definitely.
So that's where I felt that they went wrong. They should have never hired Scott Ninnis if they weren't sure of their situation. And that's where they were wrong.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, even we sort of reported on a little bit at the Basketball Fix, and obviously Scott did amazing things to back up the end of that season last year and really got them in a good stead. Obviously, he kept DJ Vasiljevic around and got Isaac Humphries going and all this sort of stuff as well. But, I think obviously it might be a little bit biased. I think Perth fans are very, very vocal and very, very supportive. But I still don't think there's any more supportive fans in the long run than there are at Adelaide Entertainment Centre in Adelaide. I think they're the most supportive fans in the NBL. win, lose or draw, they're still packing the place out. You see RSC Arena for the Perth Wildcats drop down when they're losing. You see the Sydney Kings organisations and their fans go away a little bit when they're losing. But Adelaide's just got such a strong culture, and they love their clubs and they love their homegrown talent as well. And massive shout out to Alex. He's one of my personal favourites, to be honest with you. I've said it on the show before. I think he's a guy who's got tremendous potential, and he's going to find himself on another NBL roster at some stage. And he's going to apply his craft somewhere as well. But it was just an unfortunate situation with some unfortunate timing. But like you said as well, you're always going to make way for a guy as big as Montrezl Harrell. And he's been not only good for the Adelaide 36ers, but the whole entire NBL competition as well. Just the eyes he's brought on the league has been incredible. It's just been amazing.
No, you're 100% right. And like even like Alex is overseas right now doing a little bit. But, that's my guy. He's like a son to me. Right. And, I always look at him as, I know his mom came over. We have dinner together. I mean, he's just a real hardworking, good guy. But in that situation, you got to weigh that damn scale out. And, like I said, it's a business. It's a business.
Definitely. It's definitely a business. Now, mate, let's get into a business of yours now. It's a nice little segue there. And obviously you're doing something really, really exciting in the Adelaide community. And this is what I love as well. When I touched on, obviously, a bit earlier where I said you guys have all stuck around and you guys are really, really big in the culture of the communities that you guys, essentially, live in now and massive parts of the communities. But Tristar Basketball Academy, mate. Now, before we get into sort of touching on it, I've got a few little links here as well. So tristarbasketballacademy.com.au. Make sure you go and check it out as well and book into a few of these classes and these academies as well, which obviously you'll be running and obviously having some exciting guests on as well. And make sure you check them out on Instagram and Facebook as well, Tristar Basketball Academy. Now, let us know what this sort of is all about, how it came along, and obviously a couple of dates coming up with some of these camps, because I'm sure there are kids all around Adelaide who will be chomping at the bit, mate, to get to a few of these academies run by yourself.
Yeah, now it's very, very interesting because I only do one camp a year, right? Wow. It's in January. This year is the 13th to the 17th. But the most, for me, impressive thing with the camp, next year will be my 30th camp. We've been going for 30 years, and we've had over 150 kids every year.
That is massive.
Yeah. And it still has the same numbers. We get our 150, 160, 170 sometimes. Always stay over 150.
Yeah.
And the thing that we do is a live-in, and I think Ricky is starting to do one in Perth too, from what me and him he was talking to me about before, but I've been involved with that. But at the same time, I do stuff with special need kids as well, right? I'm just trying to work out a relationship with the 36ers where I bring the kids to the trainings and, we sit down and watch the 36ers train. It might be 20, 30 kids that come. And then, we invite their parents as well. Right. And then we sit down, watch the training, maybe go on the court for a few minutes, half an hour. Then we go up and have a coffee or tea because I have a disability daughter. Right. And we sit down and we talk about our kids. Right. I might have a 5-minute segment of talking about my daughter. Someone else might have a 5-minute segment talking about Johnny or Mary. You know what I mean? And just to get the feel that they're not alone. Everybody can sit at home and think, because who I am, and I know for a fact CJ has 2 kids.
Yeah. Right?
CJ Brune has 2 kids that has disabilities. And we all have it in our community. But a lot of times it's not like people sweep it under the carpet, but you don't take notice of it. I want to make sure that they take notice that we are out there and we care. And we are people that have given something to this community, as in our sporting situations. Now, since it's taken off the court, we take it a little further and trying to work with the special need kids as well.
That is awesome. That is, it's not unheard of to see these things, but I think they're not as prevalent as what they should be because, I just think every kid growing up deserves equal opportunities, no matter what. I think it's really, really important. And that's an incredible, obviously, thing you guys are doing there. I love that like a lot. It's honestly incredible.
So I'm really, really, and then we're going to be talking to some football, cricket, because some certain kids like those other sports,
Yep.
right? You just don't lock it into basketball. And the people that I'm building this up with are really, I mean, like when you talk about it and you're in it, it becomes a whole different ball game because I wake up to it every morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love it. Love it. You know what I mean? I say a friend of mine, a good friend of mine's sister said to me, God gives special kids to special people, and that's what me and my wife is. And that every morning I wake up to that and I kiss my daughter.
That is the best. Yeah.
So that's that.
I love that, mate. And if we can get involved in any way or we can help out in any way possible, mate, don't you hesitate to reach out because I love that. A massive shout out to what you're doing off the court as well. I think, if we can be of any help in Perth or if we can, we'll fly over and help you in Adelaide if you need extra bodies and extra people to help out, mate, because
that's awesome.
It's an incredible cause, mate. And I love every bit of that. I think it needs to be a lot more of that in sporting communities. I think, it's not always about like the star athletes, for example, but that's where sport does go because you sort of tend to look after your star players a bit more. But it's not about just them. It's about everyone from top to bottom, all abilities. You're seeing around Australia at the moment with the introductions of these all ability leagues in basketball and football and rugby. It's incredible. But giving kids of, all backgrounds and all disabilities and everything a chance to play sport. So if we can be of any help, mate, don't hesitate to reach out. And I just want to drop those links one more time as well. Tristar Basketball Academy.com.au is the website, and Tristar Basketball Academy on Instagram and Facebook. If you've got a kid in Adelaide or even anywhere in Australia, fly them over for those camps because the 13th to the 17th of January was the dates there. And make sure you get involved because this is an incredible cause. And obviously, the best thing of it all is you're going to be rubbing shoulders with one of the all-time greats in the NBL and Al Green as well. So, mate, this has been a tremendous episode. I've taken up well and truly more of your time than I thought I would, but I've enjoyed every second of this, mate. I've loved learning about your journey from start and still, obviously, to the present right now. Nothing is finished yet, mate. You've got a legacy that you're still building now that is going to far exceed everything that you probably could do on the court as well. Obviously, this basketball academy as well. So thank you for your time, Al. And I hope you really, really enjoy everything coming up and you have a great camp in early January. Again, if we can be of any assistance at the Basketball Fix, don't hesitate to reach out, mate.
No, I appreciate that so much. And thank you for your time. It's a situation. It's good to reminisce the past and talk about the future.
Definitely,
right, and that's
mate.
what we have done. And I love your energy, and I think you're good for the sport. And I'm glad we got people like you trying to keep furthering the education of what we love so much.
Definitely, I think it's the most important thing. We're breaking down barriers between and getting to know people like yourself and other legends of the game because you like I said earlier on, we can't forget about the past. It's made us right now. I'm a massive believer in that. But that'll wrap up today's episode, everybody. This has been a one-on-one episode with NBL legend Al Green, and we hope you've gotten your basketball fix.